The following program is intended for mature audiences.
CBS presents this program in color.
Previously on Basically a Sports Show. Yeah, it looks like, is Andrew Luck? I mean,
he's injured again. He's got an ankle issue.
Is he going to be one of those guys where we're going to, like in 10 years, go, man, what could have been?
Like, I think so.
I think so, too. I really do.
They fucked him over with not getting a proper offensive line for a couple years.
I think he's going to be one of those guys.
Really show.
Yep. Yeah, he's going to be like, I think he got a lot more success than Greg Cook had, but Greg Cook was this guy with the Bengals that was really, really good and just kept getting hurt, and you could only go so long with that before you got to move on. And I was thinking about that when I was reading about Andrew Luck today, and I thought he's going to be one of those guys.
TBS, America's #1 independent television network, presents the following sports exclusive.
You're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes.
And check out every episode of the show at basicallysports.tumblr.com.
Now here's your hosts, Zach,
Greg, Mike.
And you're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
The absolute worst!
We have a lot to talk about, but
well, first off, we've got to talk about the huge retirement that took place in sports this week. An absolute legend. Cam Ward has hung him up, yeah. And some other guy that played quarterback from the Colts retired, too.
Arguably, Cam Ward, more surprising because I just thought he would never go away.
He would just he would play forever and keep getting starts because of that 1 year.
Yeah, I won a Stanley Cup that one time, guys. Oh, okay.
With the Hurricanes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think it was
Excuse you, that's the Redneck Rangers?
Oh, right. Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't want to offend anyone.
The Redneck Rangers, who are apparently, it's just the worst thing anyone could ever call anyone.
Yeah. What if you self-identify as redneck, or at least, like, in my case, redneck adjacent, at least?
These are complicated issues that I think it best left to the suits in Washington, Greg.
I have once or twice gotten a sunburn on my neck. Does that qualify me?
Well, that's where the term originated, so yes.
Okay, great. Then I declare it non-offensive.
It's not offensive,
at least
to anybody.
Not in the way that some people make it.
Yeah, like if you were, I can see where you'd be like, don't, I'm not a redneck, don't call me that, but to be like hurt to the core, are you kidding me? Yes!
For a few people that aren't on our message boards, the Hurricanes put out their new alternate jersey.
No, it's their new road jersey.
Oh, right. Sorry, the road jersey that should be an alternate jersey. It says Canes across the front in diagonal letters, much like the Rangers. Someone put forth to call them the Redneck Rangers. Somebody said that redneck was a racist term against white folk.
And that was coined by white people to describe other white people. So.
And that sparked a long discussion about whether or not redneck is racist. Sure, it's an insult to a degree, but I wouldn't call it racist.
I would call it harmless, is what I would call it. I mean, really. If somebody calls you a redneck, they're basically saying you like Toby Keith music. That in itself is a bigger insult.
Yeah, as I said in the discussion, I've always considered it more of a lifestyle thing.
Yeah, like it's like if you're just into country music and that whole scene, then yeah.
I mean, Jeff Foxworthy made a career out of "You might be a redneck if." That's I mean, that guy's living in got piles of money on that alone.
I liked what was it that Admiral said? Alternate universe black Jeff Foxworthy from that whole discussion. But yeah, no, that was dumb. And the Hurricanes' new road jerseys are dumb. Hurricanes, what are you doing? What's your identity?
We're the Redneck Rangers. They're the Redneck Rangers.
I guess.
It wasn't terrible, the jersey. It's derivative as all hell, but it wasn't bad. It just wasn't good.
The jersey would be 100% better if it had a logo on the front. Like or if it had a logo, or if it said Carolina.
Yeah, the thing that really bugs me is the Canes part.
Yeah.
Right now, you're getting into Sens
Or Bolt's territory, and the Lightning did that.
It's never been good, so why try it? Just if you really want to commit to doing the diagonal letter thing, it's not like the Rangers have owned it. Like Pittsburgh had a very nice one, Colorado had a very nice one, but it's clear that it works better with longer words.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So just
Yeah, 5 letters. That's a lot of real estate for 5 letters.
Yeah,
It really is.
Especially since the road jersey, if it said Carolina across the front, I'd almost be okay with it.
Yeah.
I'd probably say, you know what, that's pretty good. But Canes doesn't. It looks cheap. It makes it look cheap. That's all.
Yeah, I think when we were texting about it, I went to my old standby. It's a broke ass Walmart jersey because that's what it is. Yeah. I mean, not a thing wrong with it. It's fine. I wouldn't wear it, but it's not. You're not going to get laughed out of the building in it, I don't think. But no one's going to look at you and go, "Oh, that's a jersey." Well, it's kind of where you're at with it.
It's one of those things that looks like a jersey for a company that didn't have the rights, the licensing to put the logo on it.
Yep, the broke ass Walmart jersey. Yeah. Like I don't know exactly how it works, but I think that like whoever the exclusive provider is with Nike, I guess with the NFL, they get first right of refusal on all the word marks are the logos and all that. And then the subsidiaries like your Walmarts or Targets or places like that, they have to put the logos on in a certain specific way in order to do it. And it cannot resemble the way Nike does it. If I might be wrong about this, but I'm almost sure I'm right because I thought I read it somewhere. And by the time you get down to Walmart, you've got so many like second and third word marks and logos and shit that it's not even worth the bother. But that's kind of how it works. So, that's why it's a broke ass Walmart jersey because you can't get the good licensing for it.
Right.
Essentially. But yeah. I don't think they're terrible. I just think that, like I said, Canes, that's an awful small word for that much real estate because that means the letters have to be really big, and they are. Mm-hmm. And it's just, it could have been done better. But I don't hate it as much as everybody else does, but I'm not exactly a fan of it either. I give it a solid right in the middle. You can't dance to it either.
The whole thing got blown. Like, it's like, dude, if you just let the Redneck Rangers thing slide, no one would have remembered this discussion.
Yeah, probably.
Well, because it went from Redneck Rangers to then like calling out the records of the team, and it's like that has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
No. And then what was great was someone going like, "Now that I've seen how upset you are at this, I'm never not going to call them the Redneck Rangers."
Right, like his whole little tantrum over the whole thing has created this whole new animal.
Yeah, recent show convert Buck fan even said like he was the one who coined the term Redneck Rangers, and he even said something along the lines of. Yeah, no, he even said something along the lines of like it was just like a stupid term I came up with, but thanks to your tantrum, now it's like become board history. So thank you.
And that is what I love about those stupid boards is that the greatest inspiration comes from the dumbest places. Always, it always does. Yeah. But yeah, it was
50 Shades of Wolf Gray. Come on, that's classic.
Oh, that's a beauty. Did you ever see the one I did where I took a picture of an Admiral's hat and I tried to make it sound like his voice and Mike, and I don't remember if one of you two weren't there when he was on. Zachary?
I wasn't. I was out of town. I wasn't there.
Well, I tried anyway. He's got this very deep, very everything's very properly pronounced voice.
I imagine he sounds a lot like Richard Attenborough.
No, his voice is way deeper than that. Way deeper. Think like James Earl Jones, man. I'm talking it's
really?
down there.
Okay.
Dude has
Admiral, look at you.
Dude has got a set of pipes, let me tell you. And there are two things I'll never understand about him. And maybe he does these things, he just doesn't tell us. I don't know why that guy's not writing for a magazine or for like Huffington Post or somebody.
The New Yorker,
whatever. Yeah, and
the New Yorker would be like his spot, I think.
And the other thing I think he might actually do this is do voiceover work for like documentaries and stuff because he's got.
I'll have to keep an ear out for a documentary where it's not quite James Earl Jones.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd recognize his voice again if I heard it because it, and I don't mean this as a knock, but it's not a unique voice. It's one that you've heard a lot of different places.
Just like. I guess
like the Sports Center guy, brought to you by, that's unique. No one else sounds like that. But Admiral just got that great deep set of pipes that just works fantastic for like voicing NPR type stuff and things like that, and he'd make a fortune at it. And maybe he does. I don't know. But I'm way off track here.
A bit.
So, yeah, the Redneck Rangers. Yeah, beautiful stuff.
Redneck Rangers, Cam Ward's retirement.
And I got to bring this up again, guys.
Yeah.
We are terrible at making game predictions. I'd be the first to admit that. Our record is abysmal. But last week, unknowingly, we half predicted what was going to happen with Andrew Luck. And I played the tape at the top of the show to prove it. We were talking last week on this very show about Andrew Luck, and he was hurt again. And I said, he's going to be one of those guys, isn't he, where we're going to sit back and go, what would have been with him? Because we're never really going to know for sure. And look where we are now.
In a way, yeah. I mean, I don't think we
all agreed. We all agreed. We were all like, yeah, it's going to be. We don't know what we thought he was going to retire, but we all thought that his career was not going to be a long one. We just, that was just and we were like, he's going to be one of those what if guys. And
I was even thinking that to the extent of like, what if he goes on and he does eventually win a Super Bowl at some point, but how much better could he have been had he not been beat up in his career?
Right.
And now he's not even going to get that chance, which is the whole thing I find kind of heartbreaking, like very, very sad to see.
Yeah.
A guy with such talent, with such IQ for the game, to have his whole care and want for the game just beat out of him.
You flat out, like if you watch that press conference, like he was broken. That is like,
yeah.
He is not having a good time, and not only that, but like you could tell, like just what he was saying. It's like he's like, injuries robbed me of my love for this game.
Mm-hmm. Well, he said it. He said he's been in this constant cycle for the past few years of injury rehab, and he's just tired of it. I don't blame him. And they were going to be a lot better this year, and I still don't think they're going to be too terrible with Jacoby Brissett in there, but. The guy Zach, you saw it up close probably more than any of us, but the guy just got his brains kicked in every week. Mm-hmm. And after a while, he's hurt again and they don't know, this thing with his leg, they don't even know what the fuck it is. And he's like, more rehab and more uncertainty. And you know what? I've got $97 million in NFL money alone. Goodbye. And I don't blame him a bit.
And that's the thing too, is like, this was at the beginning of his career. Like with this, I don't know if either of you have seen Urinating Trees video yet on it, but
I did, yeah.
He outlined what I thought for the longest time. At the end of my Colts tenure, this was still the Ryan Grigson era, and it was one reason why it was very easy to walk away from the Colts at the end of the day. Was Ryan Grigson was a terrible GM that never addressed the problems the Colts had up front, and Jim Irsay allowed him to continue to do his job without any ramifications or any attempt to build the team up. It was Andrew Luck pulling that team, kicking and screaming along with him. Mm-hmm. Except, he kept getting knocked in the head for it. And now the Colts do have a new GM, and they seem to be on the way up. I mean, there were plenty of people. I didn't realize that this was a hot pick over the offseason, but
I think a lot of that's because they went 9-1 down the stretch last year, which, as we all know,
right.
Last year's results do not affect this year's results really ever, but yeah.
But people were making this a hot pick that the Colts could go to the Super Bowl, and to even have that be a thing, to even have that run that they did last year is great. But then people forget Andrew Luck didn't start the beginning of that season because of another injury.
Yep,
and it's. I don't blame the guy. It sucks to see, but the only people to blame for this are the Colts, and specifically Jim Irsay and Ryan Grigson for not doing better. Because ultimately, if Grigson's a better GM, maybe Chuck Pagano doesn't get fired when he does either. Because I thought Pagano was a pretty good coach, at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And yeah, Luck was a guy with all the talent in the world and all the ability. He looked to be, and the thing about it too is the way he's built. And how he played, he always seemed like he was strong and sturdy, and that he wouldn't be a guy that would be beset by lingering injury. But here we are, and here he is out of the league at age 29.
Yep. And he's up there with like Jim Brown retiring in his prime, Barry Sanders, Calvin Johnson. You know, these are all guys that, I think Barry Sanders, we probably got about what we were going to get out of him, but the others, who knows? You know,
I think this kind of goes on, what has been, hinted at here and there, but I haven't seen anybody really dig into it. I was a bit disappointed. Urinating Tree actually didn't go into it in his video. That I think the Peyton Manning years masked a lot of Colts managerial incompetence.
Oh, sure. I remember Zach talking about that all way back when we first started Basically a Football Show.
Oh, sure. But it was different then because Manning was, an all century talent.
And even he got taken out, though, by injury.
Yeah.
That's how his Colts career ended.
Yeah, he had to fuse his neck.
Guys, I, at the end of the day, and anybody with any amount of football IQ will tell you the most important thing you have to have on any football team is a good offensive line. It all begins and ends right there. And we've seen so many quarterbacks. I mean, David Carr, Derek's brother, probably could have been a good quarterback, but just got the shit kicked out of him for 7 straight years. And that was that. Tim Couch. Everybody says, Tim Couch was a bust. Not really. He was a good quarterback, but he got so beat up every game, and it just gets beat out of you. And Andrew Luck, big guy, great quarterback, but got his ass kicked on a regular basis. It's just not going to last, and it's a shame.
I mean, if you look at both Manning and Luck, that's two, all generational talents that have, severely injured themselves playing for the Indianapolis Colts. So,
right.
I haven't. Manning was a different story. I think Grigson didn't come in until the Luck years, right there at the changeover between Manning and Luck. So I don't know if I put Manning's on the Colts necessarily, because for the most, besides the end there, Peyton never got injured. That just wasn't what happened to him.
That's true, and that's why they stayed good too, because he was never out.
Exactly. And so I don't know if I can put that same blame on them with Manning, but surely the blame is there for Luck. I'm going to try to pull up his injuries because it's like he had this ankle thing that turned into a calf thing. He had the rotator cuff. He had a lacerated spleen. He had at least one concussion, bruised ribs. The whole deal. So it's not like he has one thing that just kept popping up. He got injured all over his body.
Yeah.
It
is going to be interesting though, because a lot of people are like, he'll take a year off and he'll want to come back. I don't think so. This is a smart guy.
Yeah.
That knows he's made his money. And if he does come back, where's he going to go? I mean, if he goes to a good team, maybe, but I think he might be done. I mean, I'd love to see him come back, but I think he might be finished.
I know this is dumb, but I can't not say it. Andrew Luck, XFL.
Yeah.
I mean, his dad is like the commissioner.
Well, look what Tommy Maddox did in that league. Imagine what Andrew Luck would do.
Oh, right.
I don't see Luck as being that type of guy, though.
No.
He seems pretty true about his word. And that has been a criticism that's come up, saying some people trying to call him weak for basically just giving up now, instead of just rehabbing, taking you off in rehab. Well, right. Taking you off in rehab and then do it. But it's if the guy, yes, it's one thing to have to rehab and come back. There are guys that do it all the time, but if you literally have the joy of the game beaten out of you, and that's ultimately what this is. It's not like there are very few guys that go out there and hate football but play it every week. At a certain point, if you just don't want to go and you just don't want to commit to putting your body through what is going to have to go through, and you're just married and you have a kid on the way and you want to have a fine quality of life when you already have $47 million in the bank and a Stanford engineering degree, in your pocket too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't blame him at all. If he was healthy, of course he would love to still play, but it's just not the situation. He's doing the right choice for his life. I think that's something that needs to be applauded in this day and age.
Also, one other thing. Thankfully, Zach, you got out because, goddamn, that whole thing did not reflect well on Colts fans.
Oh, yeah.
When they booed him at the end of the game?
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't cool. I mean, I get it. They're upset, but come on. You know, he didn't do it out of spite to you guys. And this guy is not a guy that's going to play games like this. I mean, if he's retiring, it means to him in his mind, he's done. And that's it. He's not the type of guy he's not an Antonio Brown who's just going to do shit just to do shit. He's not that guy. It's a different animal entirely. And I don't like the way they booed him either, but they didn't know the whole story. So who knows? Not making excuses for him, but it was a bad look for Colts fans. At least the ones at the games.
Yeah,
and then I've seen tweets from the supposed football experts. One guy, a writer, I can't remember, wrote this thing like, I've got friends that work at the coal mine every day and blah, 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 and you're tired? Yeah, well, at the coal mine, you're not getting, it's not like a guy, the 360-pound guy walks up every 13 seconds and knocks you on your ass at the coal mine. So come on, I mean, please.
The one that got the most play was the Doug Gottlieb tweet that he put out there. And Doug Gottlieb was a fine college basketball analyst. He was a decent college basketball player. He's from, a town just next to mine here in Orange County. But he's turned himself on the radio for Fox Sports. He's turned himself into a would-be hot take artist.
Oh, God.
All he does is try to stir up stuff. And so what he said on Twitter was Andrew Luck, quitting because he didn't want to work hard in rehab is the most millennial thing I've seen in football.
Please.
Basically calling him lazy and weak. And Troy Aikman tore him a new one on Twitter. And so did pretty much everybody else. I saw that because it's like, yeah, real hard millennial that has worked hard at rehab for the last 4 years.
If he were that guy, he would have left after his first contract was up and been like, okay, thanks for the cash. See ya. Come on. What I saw in Andrew Luck was a dedicated football player that couldn't get a fucking break with his health. That's what I saw. And I'm always going to wonder how good could he have been? Because we've really only ever seen this quarterback situation happen basically 3 times where a surefire Hall of Famer gets replaced by another one. We saw it with Montana and Young in San Francisco, saw it again with Rodgers and Favre in Green Bay, and then now with Luck and Manning. I mean, where else has this happened? So, the Colts were on the rise. He's my God, remember that comeback against Kansas City a few years ago?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so it's a shame. The
comeback against Kansas City beating the Manning-led Broncos and what was it, the War of 1812 or some dumb bullshit that they tried to.
But he's a good player. It's a shame he's gone, and like I said last week, we were right. He's going to be one of those guys that you wonder what if about
but
forever.
At the same time, I mean, you have to wonder, like Andrew Luck is a pretty talented player, a pretty big name. Maybe it'll take something like this or more of, these kinds of players retiring before the NFL, maybe goes, maybe we should consider safety more seriously than we have.
Well, what have we had in just like the last, say, 5 years? We saw Calvin Johnson walk away at the absolute pinnacle of his career. Mm-hmm. Now we've got Andrew Luck. Barry Sanders was a little bit before this, before all the safety stuff started happening.
Well, you remember that 49ers linebacker?
Right. Like as soon as his rookie contract was up, he just left.
Yeah.
Oh, what about the dude for the Bills last year that split like at halftime?
Well,
that's just the Bills.
I'm done, man. I'm sorry.
15 and a half more games of this. No.
Sorry, I'm done. I gotta go. I gave it my best shot. I played 2 quarters of football with y'all, and no, this ain't happening. Bye.
I mean, look, I grew up in an area where Bills games were our standard. That's like our standard feed. So I don't blame him. Half a game's probably enough.
He's looking around at halftime and he's like, okay, in 2 months, this bitch is going to be like 6 feet, under 6 feet of snow. This team's going to be terrible. What am I doing here? And that's it. I'm gone. Here's my jersey. I'm out of here. Where's my car? Bye. So, yeah, he probably didn't pick the best way to do it, but he picked the funniest, that's for sure.
I mean, he didn't pick maybe like the best way, but at the same time, I don't really blame him. It's like, I get that.
He probably just looked around.
Especially because that's like the Nathan Peterman-led Bills, too. That's just not even like your standard Bills.
Yeah. Speaking of our boy Natty P, I haven't seen much of Hard Knocks the past week and a half. I've had some other stuff going on.
Well, the Oakland Raiders are played live from Winnipeg, Alberta, Canada.
Yeah, when did you guys? I think that's like a brilliant tactical move on the Canadian government's part to move Winnipeg like that. Brilliant. We'll never find it now because no one knows where the fuck it is. They know where they are, but no one else does. It's perfect.
Well, the thing about that though is like that's a shirt that guy bought, right?
Yeah.
So, like,
it's not really even his fault.
Who was in charge of making the shirts?
I saw it and I'm like, oh, and then I went, wait. I said something's not right here. This isn't right. And I'm like, no, it's in Manitoba. God.
Mm-hmm. The game itself was such a comedy of errors.
It turns out you can't actually have an NFL-sized field at IG Field in Winnipeg. Even though the Canadian football field is both longer and wider, so you'd figure you could fit an NFL field in there, right? Well,
yeah.
What happened that they had to go to 80 yards?
Okay, so
the goalposts are still in the end zones.
Yeah, in Canadian football, the goalposts are in the end zones, right? And so, unlike the Rogers Center, back when the Rogers had the Argos and the Bills were playing there, like the Rogers Center was always converting between football and baseball. Picking up the goalposts and moving them was never a problem. But like IG Field in Winnipeg, that like the Blue Bombers are their like main anchor tenant. Like that, it is a Canadian football field first and foremost, and you can't. And like so, the goalposts were like anchored into the ground, and so like you could remove them, but there'd be giant holes.
Yeah,
and so
like, they had to plug in those holes, and the team officials were like, "Yeah, I'm not going to have my star players running around where there's a hole plugged up in the ground that they're going to trip on and break an ankle."
Right.
Yeah.
Then on top of it, like because of that, the Packers pulled out Aaron Rodgers and everybody else, and I don't think the Raiders played any of their star guys either. So
why not just play on the damn Canadian field? Make it fun. Open it up.
We can't have fun. We're not allowed to have fun.
Yeah,
like, it would have been awesome if they just flat out said, like, we're going to play this exhibition game by Canadian rules.
That would have been better by like 30, 40%. But
you see, like, John Gruden having to adapt to, like,
a 12th player on the field, 3 downs.
John Gruden having to figure out the Rouge.
Oh, the best thing in the world would have been to have played that game under Canadian rules and have it end 1-0 with the Rouge being the only point scored.
With Andrew Luck, I wanted to look back at the 2012 NFL drafts.
This is always fun.
Yeah, number 1 overall, you had Andrew Luck himself. At the time, the right pick, probably. Still probably proven to be the right pick for the most part.
I absolutely agree, 100%.
As number 2 ended up being Robert Griffin III.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when there was actual debate on which one of those 2 to take?
Yeah.
Robert Griffin III, former Cleveland Browns quarterback.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. One of many.
Well, it's funny you mentioned the Browns because the 3rd pick that year, Trenton Richardson.
Oh, God.
And there went the franchise back 5 years, just like that.
Greg, this Browns renaissance can't come soon enough. Come on.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
But think about that of the top 3 from the 2012 draft. Like just 7 seasons ago. All 3 of the top 3 are no longer in service.
Yeah. That's weird.
Is Robert Griffin still on a team? I guess he's still technically on the Ravens.
I want to say he's with the Saints, but I'm not sure.
I think he's with the Ravens, according to Wikipedia.
Okay, Ravens, okay.
But anyway,
well, but he's another one of those what if guys. What if Mike Shanahan hadn't left him out there when he was hurt in that playoff game? What if he'd stayed healthy? Who knows?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, you just never know.
I mean,
because he actually had a pretty good rookie season. People forget that that was like one of the few Washington seasons in recent memory that wasn't complete sadness.
Yeah, he was a pretty good player.
He was the rookie of the year, coming off he won the Heisman Trophy the previous year, and then the rookie of the year the next year. It was like, okay, this guy's going places, and then that playoff game happens, and
it was
his career just is done.
And that's
if only he had been more black, this could have been avoided.
Right, and the problem too is that he wasn't black enough. That's a huge issue in this day and age. I mean, when I want a black quarterback, I want a black quarterback. Don't give me any of this, like, whatever is not black enough shit. I don't know what that means, but I don't want it anyway. What was I going to say? Andrew Luck would have been the same type of thing, though, where the injuries would just keep piling up until, he'd be Robert Griffin. Like Andrew Luck's our third string quarterback, and I don't think he wanted to go there either. So,
no.
Yeah, it's a shame, man, because I think the dude was just hugely talented. And, what would he have been with a better offensive line for like the first 3 years? And
what if he had more than one receiver to throw to?
Yeah, and I mean, look, T.Y. Hilton's pretty good, but it wasn't like the old days when Peyton had Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne. Yeah, come on.
Dallas Clark, Brandon Stokely.
I'm just looking at it from putting him somewhere else. Like, put him in Cleveland with Beckham and Landry and that whole crew and the running game they've got. That's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
Or put him in, but my God, Baltimore. What would Baltimore be if they had Andrew Luck at quarterback? Probably be pretty good.
Couldn't have been much better with the eliteness that they were employing.
Oh, true. I always forget. I'm, and it's just a slip of my mind. That's all. I mean, it's not like I don't respect the guy for how great he is with Joe Flacco. I just forget that he's as great as he is.
But right.
No, it's right. It's easy to do.
If he's in Baltimore as opposed to Indianapolis, he probably has 2 Super Bowls by now.
Yeah.
It's hard to know.
It's just wild to me that we were just talking about him last week as he's going to be one of those guys, and all things looking that it's going to stay that way.
Yeah. The rest of that top 10 that year, Matt Khalil was an offensive tackle for the Vikings. He still had a decent career. He's probably the best of this early part. But then you have Justin Blackmon, wide receiver for the Jaguars.
Total bust, complete.
He was a bust. He's still suspended from the league. Apparently. Morris Claiborne.
Hold on, back up a second to Justin Blackmon. How bad do you got to be when Josh Gordon gets reinstated and you aren't? Come on now. All right, go ahead.
Mess. Number 6 was Morris Claiborne. He's been a defensive back for the Cowboys, and I think they said he's on the Chiefs now. Mark Barron for the Buccaneers.
Claiborne's pretty solid, isn't he?
Yeah, he's all right.
Yeah.
Ryan Tannehill.
Wow. God, it's so hard to say with him. I just don't think he was very good.
I'm just going to say it. He never was good. I mean, it's not like he didn't have chances. He had plenty of opportunity.
Yeah, when you go 17, you're going to a pretty established team. You're not going to a team with, maybe not the greatest team, but it's not garbage either.
Well, not only that, but like how many years were we like, this is the Dolphins' year? Like they look like it looks like they can turn it around, and then it was like them and the Bills. There was always be like 2-1, 3-1, and everyone would be going like, oh, they finally did it, and then they wouldn't.
How many years have we been doing this show? Because that's your answer.
I mean, so like, yeah, he had chances. Like he had chances on teams that looked like they could have put it together, and they never did. And whether that's all on him or not, like,
wasn't he from South Carolina? Was that where he went to school, Zach?
Who was that?
Ryan Tannehill, South Carolina.
Tannehill went to A&M.
Texas A&M from South Carolina. Anyway, well, I just don't think he was very good. I don't know that. I think they drafted him way too high, and I don't think he was good to begin with.
Yeah. Luke Kuechly was number 9.
Good pick.
Like, really, the best picks in this draft now. I mean, Andrew Luck was still a good pick, but just the early retirement. Luke Kuechly at 9, Stephon Gilmore for the Bills at 10, Poe for the Chiefs at 11, Fletcher Cox for the Eagles at 12. That's your real big hits there in the first round of that year. Moving on down the first round, like I'm not going to read all of these, but Melvin Ingram for the Chargers was at 18, Chandler Jones for the Patriots at 21, David DeCastro for the Steelers, he's a lineman, Dante Hightower for the Patriots at 25. But you know who ends up being the best quarterback now out of this whole draft?
Who?
Well, it pains me to say it as we scroll down to the 3rd round, number 75 overall, to the Seattle Seahawks.
Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck him. Fuck him.
Right, yeah. That was I got to give the Seahawks a little bit of credit for that. Was a gutsy move on their part, I think. But that is what made me feel better about like Baker Mayfield, and some of the other smaller quarterbacks that have come in the league. I'm like, if Russell Wilson can do this, and let's be honest, he's pretty good, but he's not as good as Mayfield. He's not as good as Mahomes or those guys. Is he? I don't think he is. He's luckier for sure, but I don't think he's as talented. And I thought if this little dude can play and do what he does, but see what the importance of having a good offensive line, guys, Russell Wilson doesn't do any of that if they can't protect him. None of it. Doesn't happen. Yeah.
Number 88 overall in the third round, Nick Foles.
Yeah, the jury is out and just writing up the guilty verdict on that dude. He's not good. Come on. Is he?
102 overall, fourth round, Kirk Cousins.
Our boy Kirk Cousins. He has just been
He's still around. He's still getting work.
I know. He's with the Vikings, and Zach and I, one or the other, have been calling for the Kirk Cousins renaissance for 7 years now. And someday it'll happen.
In the fifth round, Josh Norman is selected. So, I mean, you're always going to get these, but it just it's starting to see like the top of this draft,
right?
And what's become of it versus the guys that you get for value later on.
Well, that's the thing about when they do those draft grades right after the draft is over. That's the funniest thing in the world to me. You've got no idea. Sure, there will be a player or two on there, like an Andrew Luck, a Peyton Manning, that is going to be good. But after that, or maybe like Saquon Barkley, or a really great receiver. But for the most part, it's full of Trent Richardsons and other guys that you go, oh, this might work out, and then you go, oh my God, this person sucks.
And speaking of Andrew Luck and Trent Richardson, there's more of a connection there than just draft class.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I remember that trade. First round pick for Trent.
Hey, that's AAF rusher Trent Richardson, actually. So
I don't remember, but I thought the Browns were dumb for making that trade. If I remember, because Andy was still doing the show when that happened. I remember me not being happy about it. I don't think he was either.
The whole thing I think was that like they were like they had marketed him so much as like the new face of the franchise, and so like, hey, thanks for buying Trent Richardson Browns jerseys. Now fuck off.
Yeah, because he was a disaster, just a disaster. And he was kind of the last running back taken high until Barkley, because of the whole, we can get 2 or 3 running backs and get the same numbers from guys who are not paying nearly as much. And then Barkley came along, and you go, man, you got to take this guy when you can get him, because he's pretty good. And he's another one I'd like to see with a good team. Not with, who's that guy with the Giants, the quarterback, Daniel O'Brien or whatever the fuck his name is?
Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a quarterback's name. When you read down the list of Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, you're wondering where the Daniel Joneses are, right?
I mean, honestly, I think it's kind of a shame that Colt McCoy doesn't have a Super Bowl ring.
They should give him something.
Colt McCoy sounds like he should have a Super Bowl ring.
He should have something at least, right? I mean, I don't know what. We got to designate something just for that name. Because I don't know. I think it's the greatest name in college football history. I'm not so sure it's the greatest name in pro football history.
The legend of Colt McCoy.
Now, if he played for the Cowboys, now we're talking. We've got a whole story here.
Or the Texans. Or the Texans.
Cowboys, though, to really make it right. It's got to be left the university, played high school football in Texas, went to the University of Texas, straight to the Dallas Cowboys. We've got ourselves a movie now, folks. I don't know how we end it, but maybe with like him going on a shooting spree or something. I don't know. Just totally throw people's expectations. Yeah, that was really a poorly chosen joke on my part there. I apologize for that. Yeah.
So just to close the loop on Trent Richardson, by the way. Trent Richardson is traded to the Colts for a first-round pick. The Browns then used that first-round pick to trade up in the 2014 draft. So Trent Richardson became Johnny Manziel.
Oh, hey. That worked out well.
No.
That is a cursed draft pick.
Go ahead, Mike.
So, it's a cursed draft pick, and the Browns are involved in it. I'm sorry, Greg, but it's just...
I did everything but stand and scream out my window, don't draft that guy. oh my God, you knew he was
apparently Jerry Jones wanted to, and his son-in-law had to steal the card from him so he couldn't.
I know. When Jerry Jones has got more sense than you do, things are really wrong. There's something not clicking somewhere. But I was like, please don't draft this guy.
Was Johnny Manziel drafted during Jonah Hill's reign?
Yes, he was. Okay. You know what it was? He was the popular quarterback out of college. And all the fans around here think that, well, look what he did in college. He'll do that in the NFL. It's like, it doesn't work like that. You know, if that's the case, Tim Tebow would have 5 Super Bowls right now. But that's the way they think up here. You know, it's always one stupid thing or another, which is why what's happened now is so utterly amazing to me, because I think it's just an accident. They just kept fucking up so much that everything finally went right. They're like, oh, look what happened.
They finally just got Baker Mayfield, who turned out
look what we did here. How did we do this? I have no idea, but let's not mess with it. That's the Browns.
I've seen some articles over the last month or so basically saying that, but not in the way that we're putting it, saying that it was
an accident. Right,
but there are some people trying to play it off as this is what was supposed to happen.
No. Sorry.
Basically, that the Browns sacrificed 2 seasons.
No.
This
was an accident. No. This was
you can't look at the modern Browns draft history and go, it was all along.
No, sorry. You can go back and find. You can go back on numerous shows and find me saying that. I forgot what I was going to say now.
It's not no, Kevin Costner has not been back there in the long game.
I would always say the law of big numbers say they have to get it right eventually. That's what happened here. The law of averages caught up with them, and it just by pure happenstance, they woke up one day and went, fuck, we're loaded. That's what happened. They can call it a plan, they can call it whatever they want. No. It was like, oh, shit, look at this.
Idiots to plan.
To an extent, it kind of, you're right to an extent, Greg, because remember they just kept trading back and trading these guys over and over and over, and then they just had so many damn draft picks that some of them had to hit at some point, and they did. So in a way, it's like, yeah, the plan worked, but the guy who started that plan also got fired because he kept enacting this plan.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you can draft 5 times every round, you're probably going to do a little bit better than most teams. And I just like I said, the law of big numbers said they can't be this bad forever. Now, does that mean they're going to win a Super Bowl this year? No, of course not. What this means is that they're going to be coming into the season with a lot of expectations, and they're going to disappoint us horribly again. Let's get used to it. This is Cleveland. This is the Browns we're talking about.
Odell Beckham Jr. has a date with a stray meteorite. I believe.
Exactly.
I don't know, Greg. From what I understand, they're supposed to, go to the Super Bowl.
Did the team that lives in Massachusetts move or leave the league?
Now Greg's afraid to upset the Patriots.
Yeah, now I got some skin in the game now, man.
No, he learned his lesson after. Jeez.
I got skin in the game now. Back before, it was just all I was worried about were my irrational confidence Titans. I've got a real team in this thing now. I got to be really careful. Yeah. I can say what I want about the Patriots when I'm talking about the NFC, but the AFC, I have to be nothing but hushed reverence, and that's it. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, that was that. Yeah, but that's the point, though, with the draft is that, grading them afterwards is just stupid. Because we could probably go through that whole thing, and you're going to find guys that were drafted number 2 in the second round. And you go, who? And other guys you go, wow, he was a 5th rounder? No way. I mean, it's a crapshoot every year. Always has been. You do get the sure thing every once in a while, and Andrew Luck was definitely a sure thing. But he's become one of those what if guys, and that's a shame to me because I enjoyed watching him play. I got a kick out of it. And, oh my God, do we lose the Andrew Luck Civil War Twitter account because of this?
He did post a finals farewell.
Okay, I saw that. I saw that.
Put down the quill.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, we'll always have Bortles facts.
Yeah.
Damn. But anyway, I don't. But yeah, I think it's a shame that we're going to miss out. What, he was 29, probably 10 years of what could have been peak Andrew Luck. We'll never know.
Yeah, I mean, hell, even at least 7 more years, right?
Yeah, because Rodgers is on the way out. Brady is, I don't know what he's going to do.
Careful, Greg.
Brady is going to get older no matter what happens. That he cannot hold off, and
he's trying with the T12 method. He's holding back age with his mineral water.
Avoidance of strawberries.
And his avoidance of strawberries, yes.
As much as that team drives me nuts and as tired as I am of them, I still just can't help but just sit back in awe at what they've done.
I'm telling you, they're going to win the Super Bowl again.
I don't doubt it for a second.
And Tom Brady's going to be up there. He's going to be holding the Lombardi Trophy, and they're going to ask him, like, Tom, this is unprecedented. This is amazing. What do you have to say about all of this? And he's going to look straight to the camera, and he's going to go, fuck you, Greg.
Yeah, probably. Be like, but dude, I didn't say anything this year. This is for the other years, asshole.
Yeah. It turns out Tom Brady's one of our non-boards listeners, and he's just like, hey, Greg going on. It's like, I'm telling you, the Patriots are done. He's like, that son of a bitch.
Well, I hope he's listening. I'm sorry, Tom. You know what? And there's more evidence than I can even try to deny at this point that you're the greatest quarterback of all time, but I'm never going to give it to you. You'll never take it away from Joe Montana in my book. So that I will say. But I don't even think that's not true anymore. That dude's Brady's got to be the greatest, right? I mean, come on.
I mean,
the question is this.
Yeah.
Could Brady, do you think Brady could have played just as well in Joe Montana's era? I think he could have.
I mean,
and that's the difference to me.
I hate those questions because, there's so many variables. People come up playing the version of the game that they know, and it's basically a huge what if. It's just not gonna. There are too many variables to take into account, and so I've always said that you can only ever judge players against the competition they put up against.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So yeah, Brady is without question the greatest quarterback of this of this era, without a doubt. And then I don't know who you would call it in the 90s. Montana was gone. Young was pretty good. Favre was pretty good, but I don't know that any of them. Elway, yeah. Yeah, probably the greatest of that era of the 90s.
Start in the 80s, but he kind of had a late career renaissance in the 90s.
Well, he was great in the 80s. He was great in the 80s. He lost those Super Bowls. Other than that, the guy was supernatural. And he had a coach, Dan Reeves, that for reasons passing comprehension wouldn't turn him loose. And so they'd get in trouble and finally go, okay, John, go do your thing. And they'd come back and have all these fantastic comeback wins. It was the dumbest thing I'd ever seen. But, and then, anyway, in the 80s, it was Montana. 70s, probably Roger Staubach, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I see what you're saying, Mike. It's got to be judged by the era. You can't cross-reference here. It's just impossible to do. So, anyway, it's just a shame. Andrew Luck, I don't know, other than the fact that we sort of predicted it. Kinda. But we did. Wait till you hear the clip. It's really wild. It's I
know.
And I think it recorded on.
If only we could turn this into predicting game results. That we could.
No, we're terrible at that. We are absolutely awful at that. Just terrible.
We're decent at big picture stuff.
Big picture stuff we're good at. Yeah. All righty, let's do the 2019, basically a sports show, college football preview. Take it away, Zach.
We're going to go a little bit, more involved than the simple statement I'm going to put out here right now. But you guys watched college football last year, right? You saw what happened? Well, that was the 2018 season. I would like you to just erase the 8, put a 9, and then call it a day. Because it's gonna be the same.
Yeah.
The problem with college football, as we've talked about a few times, it's become very top heavy and kind of repetitive. And we're gonna get that again this year. Clemson, the reigning national champions, they're again the number 1 team in the preseason top 25. They return their Heisman Trophy favorite quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. They lose a bit on the defensive end, but
They're still going to blow through the ACC. They're still going to be they're still going to test themselves with they play Texas A&M early in the season. They play Georgia Tech first week, and they play South Carolina to close the season. So Clemson's going to be Clemson. They're going to be a high flying offense, and they're going to make it to the title game again, most likely. And then the team that's favored to meet up with them yet again would be Alabama, right behind them.
Yep.
They'll have competition in the SEC. Georgia's just as good as ever, and some people think that Georgia will beat Alabama this year. But as I was telling Mike, with Alabama, as we know, it's a Patriots thing that unless someone actually beats them, I'm not going to pick against Alabama.
Nope.
Until it happens.
Nope, I agree completely.
Then Oklahoma comes in there as a strong team with Jalen Hurts transferring in as their quarterback. Ohio State is going to be good once again. A new coach, but still good. And then those are really your playoff contenders.
I'm looking at the. Okay, I don't have my glasses on. I'm like, that can't be right. I thought number 8 was Toledo. It's Florida. I was like, number 8 for the Rockets, really? No, I try to look down the list a little ways here and see, okay, like, which is a team that could jump up out of here maybe and make some noise?
No.
And I don't see it, maybe, although I really doubt it, but maybe a team like Auburn can jump out, and pull a few things. But for the most part, I think you're right. It's going to be all the same as it's been for the past however many years it's been, 10 or so, and not a lot of it's turned into the NBA essentially. I mean, it's like we know these two teams are going to play for the title. Why are we wasting our time?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're still going to get the playoff and all that, and as every college football season goes, there are upsets and twists and turns, but it looks like it's just Alabama and Clemson's world, and everybody else is just going to have to gonna have to do something about it. Like Georgia's the only team that could see legitimately upsetting that. But it's some of those other teams, like yes, Ohio State's talented, but they have a new coach,
new quarterback, lots of new stuff.
Right, and then in the Big 12, maybe Oklahoma can do it with Jalen Hurts, but they are also trying. It's still a new guy or a new quarterback, and it's still Oklahoma in the Big 12 where they're just going to score a bunch of points,
right?
In the defense.
Yeah, because I think Oklahoma could score with Clemson or Alabama. The problem is I don't think they could stop either one of them, and I don't think they could stop. And I think that Clemson and Alabama are both more than enough on offense to score a couple times and not even give Oklahoma a chance into just one of those whoever has the ball last games wins. I mean, I think that it's just tough. I mean, those two teams are just so good, and I Georgia maybe, but Georgia's got its own history of problems. I mean, look what happened with them in Alabama in the championship game a few years ago, and Oklahoma's got the defensive problem. Ohio State's got a lot of new quarterback, new coach. Who knows?
I think what the real problem is when it comes to upsetting the apple cart here with college football is the fact of how down the Pac-12 is.
Yeah.
Because when we're talking about who can play for a national title, like the winners of the 4 major conferences of the 4 out of the 5 power conferences, not the Pac-12, will go to the playoff more likely than not. Because right now as the preseason schedule looks up for the ACC, like no one's going to beat Clemson, so there's not really a second team there. Clemson will make the playoff. Like, unless there is some catastrophic thing that happens to them, Clemson is going to make the playoff. And then you have the SEC where it's really Alabama or Georgia. Maybe LSU can make some noise.
Yeah.
Maybe, but it's probably Alabama or Georgia. And then Oklahoma should burn through most of the Big 12. The only competition might be Texas, and they're settled in there at number 10 right now to possibly, if they go through and then beat Oklahoma, then they would be in there. But the problem that comes with there's no outside competition. Yeah, Notre Dame's at number 9, but Notre Dame has, as we've seen, Notre Dame has to go undefeated if they want to crack the playoff.
Or at least be one loss with a lot of really good signature wins. They can do that, but it's a tough road for them.
for the Pac-12, you have Oregon at 11, Washington at 13. You know, Oregon's got this great quarterback in Justin Herbert, and Washington's got some offensive weapons too, and they've got some strong lines. But you have Oregon, Washington, Utah all in there, and the Pac-12's problem continues to be it's going to beat the hell out of itself. Mm-hmm. It's going to take itself out of competition. The only way the Pac-12 makes it in is if Oregon or Washington goes undefeated and looks impressive doing it, because not only do they have to, win their conference, they have to make themselves look better than at least one of those other 4 teams.
Right.
And I don't know if they can do that anymore. It's unfortunate, but that's the state of college football now, last year, and the 2 or 3 years previous to it. This is where we're at, where it's Clemson, Alabama, or Clemson, the SEC champ, Oklahoma, and Ohio State. And that's
and when you get past Clemson and Alabama, you're looking at teams that basically have a puncher's chance at that point. Like we saw Ohio State do it in 2014. They went in and they beat Alabama. But if those teams played 5 times in a row, Ohio State's not winning 5 of those games. They're winning 1 and losing the other 4. And that's just what it's going to have to be to knock one of these guys out, or a huge upset during the season, or you put them in a position where they just can't get in because they've got 2 losses. But I mean, how do you do that? Who's going to beat, like, Alabama's schedule? I'm sure is filled with cream puffs other than the SEC. Duke, New Mexico State, Southern Missouri, then they got Mississippi, A&M, Tennessee, Arkansas. Yeah. That's not even that tough of an SEC schedule.
Exactly. They have the road game at A&M, who's number 12 right now, and that's really it. I mean, they're at Auburn, for the Iron Bowl, and as we know, that's always a closer game than any records would indicate. But yeah, otherwise, I mean, yeah, they host LSU. Those are the 3 games in their conference schedule.
At least Auburn's at least ranked this year, so they're going to be good. So that might be enough. But I just don't see it. I mean, like you look at a team like Oregon, like you said, just to get into the playoff contention, they've got to move up 7 spots, yeah. And they've got to be undefeated to get there, and they've got to be impressive in doing it. And if the Pac-10's down this year, everybody's going to go, well, the Pac-10's down, and blah blah blah. Yeah, and it's just more of the same. Which I don't know. Maybe it's time to expand it to 8 teams, but I don't know what that really solves. It's still gonna be the same 2 at the end.
No, well, what that would solve would be to give Oregon that shot.
Yeah,
at potentially beat those other teams 1-on-1, because as we've seen it, like the any given Saturday doesn't necessarily apply to the playoff. Generally speaking, I think the only time that we had any sort of difference was that Ohio State year. Otherwise, it's been pretty straightforward.
Yep.
But that's the only way that you're really gonna change things, is if you give more teams the opportunity to actually get some big time upsets at the end of the day.
Yeah, I still like my plan. The highest ranked conference champions, and then you fill out the other 2 with at-larges or 3 or whatever you need.
Yeah, but sounds just the same plan, but they have to do it. But I think even the playoff system isn't the problem right now. The problem is just I don't know what the hell happened to the rest of college football.
Well,
I don't know how Alabama and Clemson, and it's Alabama, Clemson, Oklahoma, Ohio State. That's really like. They've got this stranglehold on the rest of the game, and I don't know where that switch got flipped.
I don't know
how these teams come up and rise out of the ranks to make some change.
I don't know how big Clemson is as a school. I don't know what its size is. I don't even know if it's a state or a private. I'm not even sure. But I think
it's actually a state school.
Alabama, huge, lots of money. Oklahoma, huge, lots of money, big alumni base. Ohio State, huge, lots of money, big alumni base. There's your answer. I mean, we can all pretend these teams aren't cheating and paying players, but they are, and we all know it. It's the truth, and that's why. I mean, but at Alabama, you go to a kid and you go, look, you're going to sit for 2 years and you're going to start, win 2 national championships, and probably go to the NFL. How do you compete with that if you're LSU or worse, Texas A&M or somebody? Because they can say that, and then you go, really? And you go, yeah, look at what happened to so-and-so or so-and-so or so-and-so. And it's just, I don't know.
Right, but there are plenty of other schools that could say that too. Like, why the hell isn't USC or UCLA better at this point?
That's a good question, especially USC. I don't understand that.
Like, Oregon for years has had the Nike money behind it now, and they should be like they were there with everybody else, and now they've fallen back to the pack a little bit. Even Florida's a public school. Florida has tradition, but Florida, they're up at 8 now, but seeing them last weekend against Miami, they're better than they have been, but they're not SEC championship ready. They're not ready to challenge Alabama.
You can tell just by watching, these guys can't beat Alabama. Miami can't beat Clemson.
It's almost like having stupid uniforms can't really, sustain the high recruitment drive that you really need to build success over a long period of time.
Yeah, because that's a good point. Because if you look at the teams with the recruiting stranglehold, they're 4 traditional uniforms. Clemson gets a little out there, but Alabama, Oklahoma, Ohio State, those are about as traditional as you get.
I would only call Clemson out there because they use purple and orange.
Right, yeah. Or they'll go mono orange or something like that. But for the most part, it's a traditional uniform too. And so I don't know how much that old adage of, we do the uniforms like this because it gets the recruits. Sure, you get a few, but as these teams have proven, you need more than just a few. But you're right. Change the number. Same thing as last year. It's like the NBA now. The NBA, and I never thought I'd ever say this, is actually more wide open than college football is right now by a good margin.
Yeah, at least going into this year. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I've seen some people in their previews. Like I was watching some ESPN stuff the other day. Somebody tried to actually say that Utah was going to make the playoff. And it's like, for the Pac-12 champion to make it in there, you really need to have some sort of chaos with the other teams.
If Utah goes like 11-1 and wins the conference, maybe, sure,
maybe, but again, they would still have to prove that they're better than Ohio State, Oklahoma, Alabama, Clemson.
Yeah, I think Ohio State's ranked too highly, to be honest, with the new coach and the new quarterback and all that. I don't think they're number 5.
So, but who's going to beat them in the Big 12 though, or the Big 10? Is Michigan going to finally do it?
Well, I hope not.
Right.
But again, like with the Browns and the drafts, the law of big numbers says they've got to win one eventually, and this might be the year. But I think Michigan could be one of these teams that's a perennial powerhouse, but they can't find a coach. And I'm sorry, but Jim Harbaugh was not the answer, folks. He's proven that over and over and over and over and over again. How much more do you need to see before you know this isn't our guy? Ohio State still kicks your ass on a regular basis, and he was brought in there specifically so that wouldn't happen anymore. Yet here we are. So, is he even beaten Ohio State yet?
No.
No.
No, he hasn't, and he's got a losing record against Michigan State.
Yeah. So, if Michigan wants to get back to prominence, they've got to do a couple of things, which is, I have no problem with school maintaining its academic standards, but it's starting to hurt them athletically. Because Ohio State's like, can you write your name? Yep. Well, you're in. I know that from going there. But,
do you know how to spell the word "the"?
Yeah, if you can do that, you're in. But it's going to be. Basically, we're watching just to hopefully get a good, exciting game or an upset here or there, and this and that, and that's it. Yeah.
I watch college football because I enjoy the sport.
So do I.
That's simply the only reason. Because, like we've said with the NBA, at least the NBA in the past, I know who's going to be there. So what does it matter? Well, you enjoy watching the sport, you enjoy watching the other teams, and maybe somebody does it.
Well, I don't know how, it's easy to say this now, but in college football, you've also got more to play for than just a championship. Like the Buckeyes, sure. I would love to see them go to the playoff again and all that, but if they don't, but they still win the Big Ten, beat Michigan and go to a good bowl game, that's still a pretty good year. It's not as all or nothing as it is in the other sports. As long as you're willing to settle for that, I suppose. But with me, college football isn't championship or bust. It's, like levels, got to beat Michigan. Okay. Win the Big Ten, make the Rose Bowl. Okay. Get the playoff. We'll see what happens. So maybe that's why it's a little easier to put up with the dominance, because you're not in it just to see who comes out and is the last one standing at the end of the season. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So, but who do we like out of Clemson or Alabama?
It's coin flip at this point. Like they've both beaten each other at this point, and so they're both really good.
They both have the Heisman favorites at quarterback with Trevor Lawrence at Clemson and Tua Tagovailoa at Alabama. So it's kind of like, yeah.
Yeah, and all Tua's done so far is come back and lead them to a national championship 2 years ago. So,
yeah, no big deal.
No big deal. I think it's Alabama's turn. That's what I'm going to go with. I don't think Saban's going to like losing twice to these guys, so then he might not have a choice in the matter. Maybe, what's that dude's name? Dabo Sweeney?
Yeah.
Maybe he's got Saban's number. Who knows?
I think if there is a team that could break through those two, I think it might be Oklahoma, just because of Jalen Hurts going in there. I mean, he's proven that he can be a national championship quarterback. He did as a freshman. And he got Alabama to the national championship game again as a sophomore before Tua came in to replace him. So,
plus, I think Oklahoma might be a little bit better suited for his talents than Alabama is.
Maybe, yeah.
So you never know.
You see how Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield have played, coming out of the system. So I have no doubt that maybe he does fit in better.
Speaking of Kyler Murray, I drafted him in our fantasy draft. I don't know why, but I did. and needed a backup quarterback. I figured, well, why not?
As long as you didn't draft Andrew Luck.
Man. I how do you handle that, I wonder?
Well, you just suck it up. You got to drop them and pick somebody else.
Mike, have we got any news on the Auburn logo thing? Are they still going to go through with it, or is our petition going to get us anywhere?
Let's take a look. Auburn logo. It's still going through.
Okay.
Wait. We've got this is hilarious. So this is from the Montgomery Advertiser. Does Auburn have a new logo? The university says no. It has a new visual identity system. Guys.
Honestly,
Guys.
I think.
What are you doing?
No, honestly, I think that might make sense. Think about we were talking about this last week. I know it sounds ridiculous, but remember, Zach, you were talking about how the regular logo is kind of hard to use on small things like apps and stuff.
Well, that's what they wanted. That was the description they used.
Maybe that squat little fucker is only going to be used on apps and stuff like that, and the good logo will still be used.
No. Here it is. There was a Q&A that I guess the Montgomery Advertiser did with someone from Auburn's communications department. They flat out asked, does Auburn have a new logo? The answer: Auburn does not have a new logo. Auburn has a new visual identity system that includes tweaks to the AU logo to make it more usable.
You bastards.
Guys, it's a new logo.
Yeah, by all intents and purposes.
This. Does Auburn have a new logo? No, it has a new visual identity system.
Right. That's like saying, is that a new car? Why, no, that's a new combustible engine vehicle. Oh, boy. Well, fuck them for ruining a good logo. And it didn't even ruin it badly enough. Well, are we done with the college?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, done with the college. I mean, it is what it is. We'll follow it as it goes through the season. And it kicks off this week. So Oregon, Auburn on Saturday night. That'll be fun.
Let's wrap it up for tonight. Next week, the big NFL preview show. A legit NFL preview, not like the college preview. Next week, we will run through some stuff, talk about a few playoff teams and teams we think aren't going to make the playoffs, et cetera, et cetera.
Listen for everything wrong about what we say.
Right, and then we will, of course, pick the Patriots to win the Super Bowl and move right along after that into the season. So, anyway, next week, the NFL preview show. I think it's the 8th annual preview show here on Basically a Football. Nope, that's the wrong show. Basically a Sports show. And remember, you can follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports. Subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, and YouTube. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
Later.
Later.